Once again, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully this will help somebody. And I can usually, if you're reasonable, if you listen to the engine, I could actually hear that it seemed that it was only one of the pistons that was the problem. Now the thing is, if we had a broken piston, let me just zoom out for a bit. If we if we had a broken piston, the engine would be going like crazy and would probably stall and stop like really roughly all of a sudden, because or maybe the piston arm is just broken in there, so you'll just have really it's a really peculiar sound. And if the piston actually blows up, maybe you have maybe it shoots through the oil pan, that kind of thing. But I could tell that wasn't the problem from the sound. Okay, so let's see another thing. If you have a broken piston, I've seen cars with broken pistons. What will actually happen as well, a lot of the oil will just burn through, and there'll be a lot of smoke all of a sudden. So that's a symptom, but that might not always be the case, because it might break in there. But at any rate, once you get to that stage, you just gotta do what I did and get somebody to tow you, right? Oh, damn, the battery's slow, for fuck's sakes. But so then I waited. I had to wait for a few hours, and even later I could just turn it on and it would run smoothly, but with that sound. And if I hit the gas, then the sound would go really loud. But it's not a grinding sound. If you have a problem with the pistons or piston rings, you get a grinding sound. And guys, with these engines, most of them are cast iron engine blocks, cast iron cylinder, everything cast iron, even the pistons. So it is really, really difficult to get a broken piston on these engines. Aluminum is lighter, but it's a lot weaker than cast iron. Right, so it's a lot easier to break engines and fuck them up, the modern engines. Whereas these cars, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second, it's really difficult to mess up these engines. So, but anyways, I just turned it off, and what I suspected is, I wish I had recorded this before. What I suspected is that one of the connecting rod bearings, and it's not a bearing sound either, because if it's a bearing, then it's more like a whining sound. And it's low. It's not really loud like I had before. But anyways, the piston. Here's the piston. Let's say my fist here is the piston, right? Here's the piston arm, or the rod, whatever you want to call it. And down here, there's it's a round piece like that, and it'll attach to the round part of the camshaft like that. And there's like a little C. I think it's called bearing journal, connecting arm journal, something like that. I don't know. Just research that name there. But if you want, but it's like a little C, and it'll bolt around like that. So that way, you're able to. You can remove. There's two bolts here, one on each side, and it's still like that today. And you'll remove that bolt, and the C here will come out. And here's the camshaft, nice round camshaft. And then you're able to remove the piston right from the top. So I thought, well, I bet you that somebody did some work on this engine and didn't tighten it enough. So now the thing is just rattling like crazy. And sure enough, guys, I'll show you in just a second. That's exactly what it was. So how did I figure that out? Well, the thing is, this car is really nice, and you can see that. But I've seen a lot of shitty work here on this car. I've seen places where on the structure, guys, the frame of the car, the assholes that had it before me, the dumb assholes, they, instead of making a weld, they put fiberglass on it. Like that patch, it's like some sort of textile. You dump like some sort of resin on it. That's just shit, guys. I hate that stuff, and I never will use that junk, especially not in the frame. So straight away I could tell that these guys were dummies, amateurs. And amateur, what separates an amateur from a professional is not amount of years or experience or a piece of paper that says this and that. It's just how you do your work. A professional will do the work to, like a proper job. An amateur, a dummy, will just do a lousy job, right? I'm more than a professional, because a professional, you go to if you go to a shop and they need to change some bolts, they'll just put in regular bolts. Me, I'll put in stainless bolts, and I can guarantee you that your grandchildren will still be able to thank me if I'm still alive. It's a lifetime guarantee. That's what my name stands for, lifetime guarantee. As my sign says, my cars, they ain't for the weekend, they're forever, right? But anyways, the paint actually inside, these guys painted it with a paintbrush. They didn't spray it, they painted it with a paintbrush. So right away I could tell that these guys, first of all, they're not patient, and they're just lousy. They do lousy shit work, right? So I'm thinking, well, who knows, they might have done something like that to the engine, right? So sure enough, I'll just show you guys in a second. Right, so just beware of that stuff. I'll probably post some pictures once I have time, but it's just and the welds, guys. These welds, I'll show you here. Watch this. Just take a look at those welds. Just look at that. Those things aren't even welds. They're just fucking blobs, man. Look at that. Hang on. Just look at the state of that thing. Just look at that. Holy Jesus, guys. So right away, I'm just thinking to myself, well, probably these dummies try to play with the engine, and I didn't tighten one of the little C's enough, right? So now let's go over to the engine. And guys, this part here, it's just beautiful. It's a little too bright there. Oh yeah, hang on, let me just mention one thing. Now, this is a 1963 Rambler American 330. 3 on the tree, the transmission. Now, in order to get the oil pan out, it was a real pain in the ass, and I just fought with it for the whole day. But what you'll have to do is, you'll have to remove the bolts from the transmission so that you can jack up the transmission higher. Alright, that's what I did there. There's a jack there. Just, right, there's a jack right there. Right, because it won't come out through here. I'll show you the oil pan in just a second, but it won't clear because of the this here, the oil pipe. Right. So, and then after that, you'll have to tilt the engine, and then through the front here, you'll have to lift the engine here, and you will have to disconnect the arm on the alternator, because otherwise the alternator will squeeze against the battery. You'll have to watch out for the fans. The fan. There's not more than one fan. The fan blades. You'll have to watch out for the coolant, or the antifreeze, if you will. The hose. Right. I'll go up in just a second. You'll see there, see there's the just the bolt there. There's a like an arm so that you can adjust the length, the tightness of the hose. Sorry, not the hose. the Jesus, I forgot. What's the name of this thing? The belt. There you go, the belt. Right? You'll see that it clears the battery there, but once it's stretched out, it'll actually be under the battery here, and you don't want that, because when you jack it up, it'll just either damage the alternator, damage the bolt, or damage, it'll squash the battery seat there. So just be careful, and be careful of the fan here as well. You might hit this structure here. Whatever. So just watch out for shit like that. You will have to disconnect the rods from the transmission, because they will also get squashed if you leave them. So just remove them from the transmission. You don't have to remove them from the steering wheel. I mean, if you must. No, you don't have to. Just be careful. Right here, you see these guys, look, another fucking problem. They put the brake line right on top of where the transmission goes. So you got to be really careful when jacking up the engine or the transmission, because it might damage the brake lines. It's the proper place. It should be through the side, not through on top of the engine. It should be through the side. So right away I can tell these dummies, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing, right? And a bunch of lousy work. The paint looks nice, but I mean, paintbrush inside, damn, that's really bad. So I think we're good here. I mean, just watch out for things, right? That simple. It's that simple. But now let's go to the part I like. This, guys, is why these cars are great. Just look at this engine. Look at the thickness of that thing. Look at how thick that is. I literally need a ruler to measure the thickness of that. So here's the little C's I'm talking to you about. There's a camshaft. Here's a little C. See, there's two parts to it. Right here and here. There's the bolt. If you remove this nut here, this half will come off, and you're able to push the piston. And I'll just try to. Alright, give me a second here. There's the piston right there at the top, and there's the arm, piston arm. But guys, just look at the thickness. Just I put my fingers here. Look at the thickness of this thing. It's literally, what's that? 2 inches. 2 inches of cast iron. 2 inches. With modern cars, you literally need a micrometer to measure the thickness of the camshaft. So, one thing I can guarantee you, you will never, ever have a broken camshaft on this car. One thing I'd like to mention now, since I'm here, is this gasket here. As you can see, it's pretty worn out. And the way you can tell is that it looks like the engine is sweating. The oil starts to slowly come out through the sides, and there's just oil everywhere. Like you see there. Look, that's the outside part of the line. You see there's sort of like here's where the oil pan goes. Here's the outside, and you see it's full of oil. It's not supposed to be like that. But look, guys, look, the engine is even painted on the inside. This is just unbelievable. Look at that. It's painted on the inside. This is just unbelievable. How? Look at this part here. Literally 3 fingers thick. It's like that's over 2 inches thick, guys. It's just impossible to break.